do think having uniformed officers in schools a little chilling. Looking at the numbers, there's probably a lot more incidents that occur outside the school. I think we need to look a lot of the things that are affecting what's happening to society. We used to have open gyms when I was growing up in the county, and having more activities, having a mentorship of adults to give good role models. Maybe we see kids going, latchkey kids, basically getting involved with friends at homes where there's not parents, and they get into these activities like buying ghost guns and that sort of thing. I think maybe the size of our school system has a detrimental effect on the pecking order that goes on. So I like to look at different models like Montessori schools, where there's a smaller group of students that don't have, essentially we have small towns. Our high schools are 2,000 students. So I think reducing the size of the school. I definitely want to have police officers stations close to the school and a quick response that's well trained. I think we can also cross-train some of the staff in the school. There's AI apps now. If you go to Ginger.io and look at that, that's a way students can monitor their mental health and actually maybe use similar things to have the students sort of more aware of what they're doing as far as ostracizing certain students. I would like to see us look at different ways of doing policing. If we look to England, they have only about 10% of their officers carry guns, and they have a staged approach when they interact with the public. We also see, I know you've all seen incidents where there's like 20 cops on the scene. It seems that we need to maybe have a better system for deploying police officers to match the need for each individual incident. I was out eating in Silver Spring, and there was an elderly woman that had some kind of conflict, and there was 4 officers with guns that showed up. So we can have officers that are engaged, put them in the streets, on the streets, maybe some bike patrols, as opposed to keeping them in cars, so they get to start to know, and keep them deployed in smaller areas so they actually become part of the community. And I think that will have a big effect. We also need to look at the prevention and understand what are the drivers. We used to have a conservation corps in Montgomery County, and I worked with the kids. And these are the first-time offenders that the judge put into the program, so they didn't go to jail and become trained on how to become a professional criminal. So there's programs we can do that, and they're very cost-effective. And I'd like to see our kids really understand what the drivers are. If kids are getting further behind in school, they don't see any way out other than a life of crime, or an opportunity if they haven't eaten that day, or their family is struggling financially. I'd like to address those issues, and the way we can pay for it is to save $9 billion on transit boondoggles. It's been shown that 85% of the new job creation comes from small businesses. And I think I've heard in enough of these forums, there's a focus on attracting large Fortune 500 companies. The Amazon negotiation and offer was so much redacted you couldn't figure out. But I think I'm a small businessman in the county, and I do sense like I'm the enemy when I try to do business with the county. I believe we can have, I would like to go out and get those unicorns. We have up to 30% vacancy in Silver Spring and their office buildings there. We can go out and attract the bleeding edge companies that are startup companies that are set to grow by leaps and bounds, and offer them an opportunity here in an opportunity zone where if they go out and make $1 billion in 10 years, then they get that tax free. And that's a big carrot. So rather than trying to court developers and headquarter type deals, I would look at promoting the small business. We are trying to win a race, and we're putting we've got a two-legged racehorse. We're focused on the biotech and on the hospitality industry. We need to open it up to some of these bleeding edge industries like AI, quantum computing. So I would bring those technologies. The reason why businesses are moving to Northern Virginia is because they had the foresight of putting Mae West, which is a hub for the internet. So if we started with doing a hub for quantum computing, we could actually build an economic powerhouse. And also, rather than fixing the climate change, we can get green companies here and export that technology. I'm the guy that's going to fix our traffic. We have the second worst traffic congestion in the whole nation. If I drive down without traffic, it takes me about 40 minutes by car to get down to downtown Silver Spring. It takes me 3.5 hours by bus. When they put in the bus rapid transit, it's going to take me 3 hours and 15 minutes to get down there. Transit does not work in our county, particularly in the Up County. And rather, you mentioned 3 different options. There's a 4th option. It's called personal rapid transit. And that will completely eliminate our traffic problem. Go to my website, pjames.us. You can get in one of them. There's a video. You can ride it around and see what they are. The advantage of personal rapid transit is a 4-foot wide lane on 270 would carry 5 lanes of traffic. And it's the $3 billion they want to spend on bus rapid transit, the 100 miles, we can build for $1 billion personal rapid transit. It goes point to point. It's faster than cars, probably twice as fast as a car, because you don't stop. You don't stop for a light, you don't stop for traffic. It's point to point, and you don't have to make transfers. So I can take a PRT, it can go off onto Veers Mill Road and then go off down Georgia Avenue, and I can get down to downtown Silver Spring from Gaithersburg in 20 minutes. Just recently, the richest guy in Asia bought a personal rapid transit system company. He did not buy an articulating bus company. He did not buy a light or heavy rail company. He understands what really works. You need someone who understands transportation. I can give you 100 hours of every year of time back that we spend in traffic right now, each and every one of us.
Do you have a price tag on that?
It's $1 billion for 100. It's about 10. The elevated's about 10 million per mile. If we put it on the Crescent Trail, it's about 200,000 a mile because it's that grade. We have a crisis all the time, and it's driven from developers. Our whole mindset is a plantation mindset. We supposedly solved this affordable housing thing back in 1974 when they set up the HOC. But what that does, that provides building of equity for rich people that build these units, and we've got institutionalized renting. So if we take that money instead, provide it for home ownership, everybody knows that's own a home, that after a few years it becomes more and more affordable. My daughter just moved out. She had no problem. It wasn't a crisis. She moved in with three of her friends, and they're paying $500 a month for a really nice house. So to the extent that it's a crisis, but my wife works at Shady Grove Hospital, and a lot of the younger nurses do commute from Frederick and sometimes Hagerstown, and it is a long commute. But if we put a personal rapid transit up there, they can get to work in 20, 25 minutes. So we by extending the reach of everybody, we extend the opportunity for cheaper land. And if this transit-oriented development stuff is just packing people like cordwood, and at very expensive, like Marc said, very expensive units. There's a lot of land we can put. I would use something called AI to actually search the entire county to find the optimal places to put housing. We can look at the biggest cost of housing is interest. And there's, for 90 years, there's been a interest-free lending circle in Switzerland. We can actually, like the Habitat for Humanity, provide interest-free lending, and that'll chop the cost of housing in half. Certainly, I think we're safe within our boundaries. I'd like to see some funding there, and the way we get funding is we save the $9 billion off the transportation boondoggles and open our doors to women that need to go somewhere, and maybe even provide free abortions and maybe even some transportation stipends. But the way I would do it is not through the government, is I would actually look to nonprofits and provide them funding because I think they would be much more effective at it. What I think we should have a responsibility to address is that 4 times more women of color have abortions. 5 times more women of low income have abortions. And so I would like to address those issues and solve that pressure on a woman. Do I have another kid and make my existing family suffer? And we should get the church ladies that are dead set against abortion to take responsibility on that end of things, because sure there should be. And I have 2 daughters, and so I don't want the government to tell them what they need to do with their bodies. But I think we can also help reducing the number of abortions just by building wealth. And like I said, home ownership is one of the best ways to build generational wealth, so that their kids aren't faced with the same dilemma of, do I have a growing family, or do I need to take care of the kids that I already have? I was a son of my mother was a single mom for a good number of years. She had 5 kids. She worked 3 jobs sometimes, and we had paper routes and babysat. And so I understand the pressure some of these women face, and we need to reach out and help them. And the transportation savings, we can afford to do that. I wouldn't put things past anybody, but without any credible evidence. We've got every people going out and putting out these theories, but there's no hard evidence. Actually, Princeton did a study, and a company that Diebold, I guess, that the Bushes were in, they actually were able to crack the voting machine. So I wouldn't mind spending a little more money to make sure that our voting system is intact, but I think it's a moot issue.